in the late 19th century, during what came to be called the Scramble for Africa, Germany claimed the area of present-day Cameroon as its protectorate. Following defeat of Germany by the Allied forces in the First World War in 1916, Cameroon was split between France and Britain, with the majority of the former German territory going to France, by an arrangement that came into effect on April 18, 1916. The French territory was known as French Cameroon, and the British territory was administered as British Cameroons. An Anglo-French agreement was signed in Paris on July 10, 1919, by Viscount Milner and M. Simon, providing for the delineation of the border between the French and English parts. In 1922, the League of Nations formally placed the respective parts of Cameroon under French and English mandates. For ease of administration, on June 26, 1923, while there was technically one British mandate, Britain split the administration of British Cameroons into two, with British Northern Cameroons administered as part of the British Protectorate of Northern Nigeria. Meanwhile, British Southern Cameroons, which were then simply called Cameroons, were formally administered as province of the British Protectorate of Southern Nigeria. Following the Second World War, in 1946, the United Nations was created as the successor to the League of Nations. It designated the respective French and British mandates as trust territories under the administration of France and Britain, respectively. France and Britain signed trusteeship agreements with the UN Trusteeship Council for their respective trust territories. Article 76b of the UN Charter decree that the UN Trustee Council would oblige trust territory administering authorities to foster the development of the peoples in their respective trust territories towards the realization of two very clear objectives: self-government or independence. Furthermore, Article 76b specified that the attainment of this goal would be in consideration of the freely expressed wills of the people of the trust territories. On the 13th of December 1946, having agreed to the terms of the UN Trustee Council and the newly created Charter of the UN, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland undertook to administer the trust territory and people of Southern Cameroons. When the Richards Constitution for Nigeria was promulgated in 1946, Nigeria was divided into 3 regions, and the province of British Southern Cameroons became part of the Eastern region. In 1949, the Bamenda division of British Southern Cameroons province was elevated to full province and became known as Bamenda Province, with its capital in Bamenda. The coastal region of British Southern Cameroons province became known as Cameroons Province, with its capital in Buea. Both provinces were still administered from the eastern region of Nigeria. The change from mandate to trust territory and the implicit guarantee of the eventual attainment of self-government or independence opened the doors wide for the creation of local political parties in the Cameroons. The late 1940s saw the emergence of the Cameroon National Federation, CNF, led by Dr. Emmanuel Endeley, a physician who had recently returned to Buea from the Nigerian School of Medicine in Lagos. Prior to creating the party, he had worked as the secretary for the Workers' Union of the largest agricultural plantation in Cameroon's province, the Cameroon Development Corporation, CDC. Endeley's CNF party was composed not only of Southern Cameroonians, but also of people from French Cameroon who had immigrated to work in the plantations. Following the Ibadan General Conference of 1950, a split emerged within the CNF party. Despite advocating reunification with French Cameroon, it had become apparent that Endeley was more in favour of autonomy within the Protectorate of Nigeria. Endeley was opposed to a number of incentives that would have accelerated the unofficial integration of Cameroons and Bamenda provinces with French Cameroon, including the enfranchisement and the granting of citizenship and scholarships to residents from French Cameroons. This led to a member of the CNF party, Robert Dibungay, a native of Douala in French Cameroon, who at the time had recently emigrated to Buea, and who was also the leader of the French Cameroon Welfare Union, FCWU, to create a new political party. Joining him in his endeavour were Jongu Foncha and Namasu Mbile, the then secretary of the CNF. They called their new party Cameroon United National Congress, or KUNC, with Dibonge as president and Mbile as secretary general. The KUNC's aim was to work towards reunification of the Cameroons and had the support of Ernest Wande and others of the Union of the Populations of Cameroons, UPC, of French Cameroon. Following the December 1951 elections, 13 Southern Cameroonian representatives were elected to the Eastern Nigerian House of Assembly in Enugu and included Lanjo, Muna, Foncha, Zay, Gala, Krangson, D, George, Forju, Mbile, Charlie, and Motombi, Wuleta, and Endeley. Entering the assembly at Enugu in January 1952, the representatives declared for Namdi Azikiwe's National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons, NCNC. 6 of the representatives went on to represent Cameroon's province in Lagos, and Muna and Endeley were later named Ministers of Works and Labour, respectively. By 1953, the Southern Cameroon's representatives were becoming unhappy with the domineering attitude of local politicians in the Eastern House of Assembly and the lack of unity among the ethnic groups in the Eastern region. Also, a constitutional crisis had erupted in the Eastern House of Assembly over power sharing between the three regions and the central government, resulting in a leadership vacuum in the NCNC and the dismissal of several ministers, including Muna. In March, a split emerged within the Southern Cameroon's delegation. Endeley joined Foncha, Muna, George, Forju, Lanjo, Kangson, Zay and Gala to advocate breaking away from the NCNC. The rest of the delegation, headed by Mbile, stuck to the NCNC, advocating tighter integration with Nigeria. Endeley's breakaway faction declared a benevolent neutrality and a decision to withdraw from the assembly at Enugu in favour of autonomy for Southern Cameroons. On April 14, 1953, Azikiwe, who would later become the first president of Nigeria, recognised the position of Cameroons as a trust territory and supported their demand for separate regional status. When Muna failed to be reinstated on the 5th of May, Endeley and his Cameroons bloc, as they were called, abandoned their seats in the assembly and sat in the hallways. The following day, the Lieutenant Governor was forced to dissolve the Eastern Region House of Assembly. Once at home, the Southern Cameroon's delegation invited all native authorities, ethnic organisations, traditional rulers and chiefs to a conference in Mamfi from May 22nd to the 24th. At the Mamfi conference, which was massively attended, it was unanimously decided that the CNF and KUNC parties should merge to form one political party. Furthermore, an agreement was made to petition the Secretary of the Colonies, Oliver Littleton, to demand a separate and autonomous legislature for the Cameroons. At 2 separate conferences at the Colonial offices in London in June and August 1953, the Southern Cameroons delegation petitioned and pressed hard for a separate region of its own. The UK government agreed, and Southern Cameroons became an autonomous region within the Federation of Nigeria, with its capital still at Buea. Northern Cameroons rejected unification with Southern Cameroons and reunification with French Cameroon and accepted to forfeit the £150,000 of aid it was receiving from Southern Cameroons to support its administration. Following the June 1953 London Conference, the CNF and KUNC parties merged to form the Cameroon National Congress, KNC, with Endeley as president and Dibonge as patron, with the stated goal of creating an autonomous region for Southern Cameroons with Nigeria. No sooner had the KNC been formed Then the rest of the ousted members of the KNC banded together to create an opposition party, the Cameroon People's Party, KPP. It was headed by Paul Kale, Mbile, Charlie, Samba D, and Motombi Wuleta. Allied to the NCNC, the KPP continued to seek integration of Southern Cameroons with Nigeria. Elections were held in December 1953, and the KNC whipped the KPP, winning 12 of the 13 seats in the Assembly, and sending the message the Southern Cameroons had indeed voted for regional autonomy. On the 1st of October 1954, with the creation of the Federation of Nigeria, the Cameroons and Bamenda provinces ceased to exist and be part of the eastern region of Nigeria, and were grouped for administrative purposes as the Southern Cameroons. Prior to this date, Southern Cameroons had no independent public debt, and the administrating authority did not give it direct financial assistance by way of loans, grants, or any other payment. The Southern Cameroons Regional Assembly held its inaugural meeting on October 26, 1954, on temporary accommodation in the government school in Buea. This day would subsequently be considered Southern Cameroons National Day. It was administered by UK Commissioner Edward John Gibbons, who reported to the Governor of Nigeria in Lagos. He was assisted by an expatriate, ex officio, and unofficial officers in the persons of Endeley, Kangson, Muna, and George. In the December elections for the Federal House of Assembly in Lagos, 6 persons were elected to represent Southern Cameroons.